Hi everyone and welcome to the Heinz Athletic Center for today's competition with Iona University and Morgan State. We are going to get right into it here, and we are going to start with the compulsory heat. So for those of you who are unfamiliar with the sport of acrobatics and tumbling, the meet includes 6 events and 20 total heats, and the teams are going to compete head-to-head, alternating turns on the mat in each heat. So the visiting team will compete first, so in this case Morgan State's going to go onto the mat first, and then Iona will follow up. So we're going to have a first half, which is going to be your compulsory, your acro, and your pyramids. And then there'll be a 15-minute type of halftime, and then we'll go right into the second half, which is going to be the tosses, the tumbling, and the big grand team event. And I'm sitting here with Shelby today. How are you feeling about the competition?
I'm good. I was actually here last week, so I'm really excited to see how Iona performs for their second meet of the season and what changes they've made.
Well, I can assure you this is going to be a great competition because both of these teams are a little bit newer in the sport of acrobatics and tumbling, and I think they've grown so much since they've started. So we're going to get right into this compulsory acro heat here. So pretty much this is like the building blocks of the rest of the competition that you're going to see. So both teams are going to do the exact same skills, and they're going to be judged out of a 10.0.
That was really clean. So what's interesting about the compulsory event is you get to see both teams do the same exact skills. So it's pretty much apples to apples, and it's who's the cleanest, who's the strongest, who's got the least amount of deductions out there. And this is Morgan State's second year or third year?
I think this is their third year.
This is their third year. They look so clean. They look so strong going into this third year. This is going to be a really exciting meet.
Absolutely. So, and the compulsory heat's going to be composed of 4 different heats within it. So what we just saw was the acro heat, then we're going to see the pyramid, the toss, and then the tumbling.
And everything, too, within the compulsory is you have 2 groups going at the same time. So it is synchronized every single heat except for the tumbling heat. You'll have 8 athletes doing 4 different skills. So the tough part is the synchronization of that many athletes do that many skills. As you're going through these events, the officials are looking for, obviously, the synchronization. They're looking for any steps, any bobbles, any checks, any, wrong placements of legs or arms or what have you in all of these skills. So as you're comparing with your own eyes, both of the groups and what they look like next to each other, that you're looking at all those deductions times 2.
Absolutely. And to talk a little bit more about our officials here, so the panel is made up of 3 different officials. So typically you'll have one for the tops, one for the bases, and then one that's going to look at the entire skill overall. And that is how they're going to officiate it. And we're going to talk a lot about start values and out of 10.0 and trying to get to that max possible score. So with these, as we mentioned, everybody starts from a 10.0, so that is where the judges will deduct anything that they see as wrong, as Shelby just mentioned, with all of those, with the synchronizations, the movement, all of those types of deductions that you can see, they will take off from that 10. And then sometimes, as we're going to talk about a little bit later in the heats, that these teams might not get to a 10.0 start value. They need to combine those skills to get there, but sometimes it's early in the season.
Yeah.
Some coaches are like, let's take the safe route, let's get those good scores. So Iona's going to take the mat here for us right now for our compulsory acro heat. Really solid and really great synchronization from Iona. What an outstanding job from Iona
They're
there.
obviously happy with that one.
Yes.
That was really good.
As they should be.
Do you remember when compulsory acro was a double down?
I do.
I was an athlete when it was a double down. Were
so
you?
was I.
Yeah. We had, maybe 2 people on our team could do a double down, and that's what got me into compulsory acro.
Yeah.
Double down. It was my cheerleading background.
Yes.
When I started coaching my very first team, teaching the double down, we lost noses, you know? And it was like when they made that change, thank you.
Yes, I have seen a few noses go.
Yes.
When I was there during my time, it was essentially, if you think about it, you're just adding one more twist onto that, which it doesn't really seem hard, but it is very hard.
And mentally for, the athletes, I was like, I've just been doing this since I was 8 years old. I don't know. I don't want just spin twice. So when they made that change, honestly, I think it was good for the sport because it made the playing field a little more level for that first event, because you would have a lot of teams that couldn't do that, and they would lose skill. They would lose points because they would modify it. So.
Absolutely, and as someone that came from a gymnastics background, a double down was not familiar to me.
Yep. Yeah, I believe
it was a foreign language.
That. I believe that.
Well, that was an incredible performance by Iona, and we are going to hit that compulsory pyramid heat with Morgan State going to take the mat. And I want to touch a little bit on these pyramids. So these are going to be 2 1-1s. So you're going to have 2 bases, 1 mid base, and then 1 athlete on the top of the pyramid. And really what the officials are looking for in this is stability through all 3 levels of that pyramid. And they're also going to look for that top to make sure that her legs in the straddle are above her hips. Really great job by Morgan State.
Yeah, I have to say I'm really, really impressed with how they're showing up this season. Very clean, very strong. Whatever happened over the last year, it worked. It worked for them. They look really, really good. This is going to be a good, fun season for them.
Absolutely. And I think they really showed up today and came ready to compete, which is incredible. So that compulsory pyramid heat, I think we were both athletes when it was a little bit different.
Yes, so it was 55 people on the floor.
Yes.
You had 2 prep groups, and then you had a basket toss group in the back, and you had a top, and you tossed her up into the prep groups, almost like cheerleading style, right? And then we held.
I didn't know.
No?
I had the one where it was the 2 bases, the 2 mid bases, and it was the handstand on top.
So I've been through so many, decades of the sport, I guess. So in my time, my first maybe 2 years, it was the throw up, and we caught her.
Yep.
And she was in a high V, and then she did a front flip off.
Yes.
There's something you call that in the cheer world. I don't know. And then my junior year, we turned it to the this one with the 2 groups. We were stacked up in the totem poles on their shoulders, and then we held them up in the I think it was a straddle. Was it a straddle or was it straight legs?
I think it was straight legs.
Together. I don't remember. Yep. So that was my last 2. So I had both.
Yep. And then it was the pop down half twist into the cradle.
Yes. But I was also a part of the very first compulsory. I don't know if it was the first, but our compulsory acro was like a switch up, a heel stretch, drop, front flip, back up. It was very cheerleading.
Yes.
And then my junior year, it became this.
Wow.
So the elevation of the sport, it's come a long evolution, I guess. It's come a long way in just that short time. It was 10 years ago.
Yeah.
Which feels long, but
but it's not.
It's not. I feel like I can still do these skills.
Absolutely. Yeah. So the evolution of the sport has just grown so much, even since when we started and we were competing, which I think is just it's really a big kudos to these athletes, to the people who created the sport, and to the people who are continuing to grow it.
Nice, clean catches.
We are going to talk a lot about those catches today.
Yeah, so, a big thing for the officials, too, that pyramid could have been perfect on any team at any given day. but it's not done until the feet touch the floor. So they're looking at that catch is the top dropping below the shoulders of the bases. What are the bases looking like? Is there a little shake at the end? You can lose a lot of deductions on just that catch, even if everything else was perfect. So that looked really good to me.
I agree. I would say if we want to be a little nitpicky, I think there was a little bit of rotation in that top,
Yeah.
but I think it looked great. I think they're going to get a good score on that one. So after this compulsory heat, we still have 2 more events to go, but then we're going to get into the creative portion of the competition, where you can really see the versatility of each of the teams, the creativeness of the coaches, and really showing what these teams have in their arsenals, because we start training in, back in August to make it to competition season, which is now to put together these skills, is to find which athletes work really well together and to find, just to build those skills for people who are coming in as freshmen who maybe have never competed in this sport before, who come from different backgrounds. So I think watching the buildup of these teams to get to this point is really incredible.
And when you look at each of these teams, each of these rosters in our sport, also, you have teams made up of gymnasts, of acrobats, of cheerleaders, dancers, divers. I mean, you have so many sports to pull from, and you're teaching them all the same thing. So everybody kind of starts at a level playing field because they all get to learn a new sport that helps them build on the skill sets that they already have.
Absolutely. I think that's one of the incredible things, too, because you're pulling from so many different backgrounds to make one sport. So we're going to head into the compulsory toss section now. So you're really going to look for synchronization, you're going to look for the height, you're going to look for the form of the tops in these tosses, and most importantly, the catch.
So one thing with compulsory toss that a lot of teams struggle with, whether it's in the training or the competition or whatever it is hitting that vertical position before coming into that catch, which is different than just your normal back top toss. So the compulsory toss has to actually open up completely and then come through. You'll probably see Iona do that a little more exaggerated through here, but that's the officials are looking for as well, that proper position, because it will be a deduction if they don't hit it. So you can kind of notice the difference between the teams, and as the season goes, who's able to hit that position, because it's really hard to achieve.
Yes. And that comes along with not only, you want to make sure you have enough height on your toss to do that. So that literally starts right from the bottom up. Right. You want to make sure those bases are throwing, and that top is also not taking off of the toss a little bit early. They take off a little bit early, that's where you're going to lose a little bit of that height.
Absolutely. It takes a village to get them up there and do the right thing.
Yes. Yes. And you see there, the formation of that basket is you have the back base, the 2 main bases, and that front spot. And the officials are also looking for there's no movement in those bases, so you don't want them to take steps. You want their feet to be glued to the ground. Really nice job by Iona there.
Yeah, very good. So you can see, that extension before that catch is what they're looking for. I would say on the right side, there might have been a little bit of a little check in the catch, but overall it was pretty good.
And I also do think those feet were a little high in that catch. You want them to be level with the body. You essentially want it to be a little bit of a straight line. And I would say those feet were a little bit high, so if the officials were going to take off anything, I would say it would be on that as well. The officials also receive an entire layout of what each team's going to be competing. So they need to submit that SV file, is what we called it back in my day.
It's still the SV file.
It's a massive file of everything and every skill and every person that's going to be competing on the mat. So they receive that usually 24 hours prior to the meet. So they are going to know what to expect from each of these teams, and you can't deviate from that file. If you deviate from the file, it is a big deduction.
It is. You do get a violation if you deviate from the file, and what's tough about the file too is if anything is incorrect in it, you get deductions before the meet even starts. So, coaches have to be very, very careful, and they have to have 15 do-overs of that SV5 to make sure it's right.
Yes, multiple eyes on that one file. So we're going to close out here with our compulsory tumbling heat. So you're going to see a back tuck, a jump to tuck, a back handspring back tuck, and then a round off back handspring layout. The officials are looking for no steps, no hops, no jumps, and they're also looking for synchronization.
Cute little choreography. I love when the team tries to be different in an event that's like so the same.
I agree.
I like it. It adds a little spice to it.
It does, and it makes it their own. Every single team's competing the same exact thing. So you want to kind of give it your own flavor.
Absolutely.
And it lets them have fun out there.
Yeah.
So all these skills are synced by 8 different athletes. Finding 8 athletes that can not only have the skills that are required for this heat, but you also need to make sure that they're in sync and that they don't move. Essentially, you want to be glued to that floor.
Yep. So every time a step happens, you got to think about how many steps are happening across the mat, all 8 athletes. And each step deduction is up to a 0.3, and it's up to the judge's discretion how big that step was. So it could be 0.1, 0.2, 0.3, and then you could do that 8 times. So, and that's just for one skill. So the deductions add up really quickly in compulsory tumbling. It's pretty hard to score in the high 9s for compulsory tumbling. It's gonna be the one heat where it's like we just accept like a 7 or 8. Like that's pretty good.
Yes.
Because of how many people are on the mat. So if you see lower scores through the compulsories, it's usually that 4th heat.
Next to the compulsory tumbling heat will be Iona.
I am going to have to say, I don't think since I've been competing and watching these, I've seen anywhere in like the mid to high 9 ranges for compulsory tumbling heat. So Iona's going to close us off here for this compulsory heat.
Nice clean landings.
I would say that was a pretty successful compulsory heat for both of these teams.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. Those layouts were so beautiful just now. And that's one thing I touched on last meet that I was here, is that Jackie and her coaching and the teams that she's coached and the program she's built, the tumbling is always so clean. The tumbling is always so strong. She puts such an emphasis on the tumbling training and the drills and the cleanliness and just the tiny little technique pieces that a lot of teams miss. And unfortunately, tumbling is a large part of the meet. It holds a lot of weight, especially in the second half. And so she always soars right ahead in the tumbling event.
Absolutely. And I think one thing that I've also noticed about Jackie's her synchronization in every single heat. As you mentioned, she focuses on those little things. And synchronization throughout the entire competition is also going to be a huge factor. It comes up in every single heat, whether it's tumbling, whether it's acro, whether it's tosses or pyramids. There is always a synchronization element, and I think not having that sync is also a very big deduction. And it makes a world of a difference during each of those heats.
Absolutely. I would like to come sit and practice and just see what corrections are given, how many times they do it,
Yeah.
Like, how did we achieve this
I know.
synchronization?
Because it's also like, we compete against these teams. Like, we've competed against you guys compete against us, but it's like, you don't know how each team practices, how each coach directs their athletes. And I think it's so incredible to see and to have that knowledge of how each athlete's coached, because everybody's different.
Yes.
Especially from the different backgrounds, as we mentioned.
Yep. And then coaching styles are so
Yeah.
different, and from team to team, like you can have polar opposite coaching styles and still have very clean, strong, successful teams.
Absolutely.
So it is interesting. Everybody should take turns going to another team's practice to see what happens.
I know. Or just let's swap
'Cause we
coaches
have
for the
that
day.
kind of time. Right,
Yeah.
right. Just swap coaches.
The scores are in for the compulsory event. And the Acro heat, Morgan State scored an 8.55. Iowa scored 9.3. In the pyramid heat, Morgan State scored 9.65. Iowa scored 9.65. In the toss heat, Oregon State scores an 8.8. Iowa scores a 9.4. In the tumbling heat, Morgan State scores a 7.55. Iowa scores an 8.15.
So we just got some scores for you guys. So for the compulsory acro heat, Morgan State got an 8.55 and Iona got a 9.3. For your pyramids, Morgan State with a 9.65, Iona with a 9.65 as well. In your toss heat, Morgan State came with an 8.8 and Iona with a 9.4. Then for your tumbling heat, Morgan State got a 7.55 and Iona got an 8.15.
With a start value of 9.4, Morgan State.
Now we're headed into our acro event. You have 3 different heats. The first heat, you are required to do 5 elements. You'll see anywhere up to 5 athletes on the mat. The judges are looking for no movement, no steps.
Also something to note is each of these heats, there's going to be a 5, a 6, and a 7 element. They have 45 seconds to complete the entire skill. And if you cannot go over that time, if you do, that is also a deduction. So no matter how many elements you're adding, the time still stays the same, which makes it a little bit more difficult.
Yep. I always wondered that too as a coach. I was like, when we add 2 more elements, why do I still have the same amount of time?
Yeah. Not only that, it's you're adding difficulty.
Absolutely.
Oh, and Morgan State had a start value of a 9.4 there. So this is where you're going to see the fluctuation in those start values because you need to increase your difficulty in order to get to that 10. And as we mentioned, it is early in the season, so some teams might not have those skills yet, or they're just building up to those skills for later in the season. So for Iona's Acro 5 heat, they're going to actually start at a 10.0.
Next with a start value of 10.0, Iona.
So they're going to take the mat here actually with only 3 athletes. Really, really great job by Iona's 5-element acro there.
Yes, and you'll see the difficulty increases as well when there's less people included in that skill. So as you can see, most of those skills, except for the one pop around with the assist in the back, was a one-to-one connection. Whereas if they would have had a second person in there for most of that, they wouldn't have scored as high. So you'll see a lot of that with Iona. They really push that envelope and putting smaller amounts of people out there and hitting those one-to-one connections to get those high start values.
Absolutely, and the officials there were mainly looking, since it was a lot of those one-to-one skills, is the stability in both that base and the top. So each of those skills that are also declared in that big file in order how you increase the difficulty, that each of those skills need to be held for at least 3 seconds.
Yes.
And if they are not held for 3 seconds, that is also a deduction.
And you'll see some teams, I don't know if we will today, you'll have someone on the mat actually holding out their fingers for the 3 seconds to make sure they know that the officials know that was 3 seconds.
Yes. I have been one of those athletes before. So I know the pain of screaming 1, 2, and 3.
So the 6th element here is a synchronized event. Synchronized heat. So every second heat through the meet, other than the compulsory event, of course, is going to be a synchronized heat.
And Morgan State's going to start at a 9.0 here. So here you want to see those tops get all the way into that handstand position. Some few steps on this left group.
Few steps, yeah. Synchronization was pretty good. I would say a little bit of instability if you're going to get anything. Maybe in proper position, like you said, in that handstand, in that inversion position. But overall, pretty strong heat. They look really confident and really good, kind of compared to years past. And so I'm really excited for them.
And you can also see
really
such a big increase in their difficulty.
Yes, absolutely.
So that 6th element was not always a synchronized 6 element.
It was not. It became a synchronized element 3 years ago? 2 years ago?
Yes.
Maybe in 2022?
Yes.
I don't even know. How old are
Me
we?
neither.
I don't know. So old.
Yes, I graduated in 2019, and I think they instituted that a few years after I had left.
So when I was coaching at Oregon in 2022, it was synchronized, and I had never coached it synchronized. So I think in 2021 they made the change.
Yep.
I think. And it's tough because it's, again, you've got to have 2 groups that can do all those skills. And then you've got to have 2 groups that can do hard skills so you can increase your start values. So when I was coaching at LIU, it was harder for us to get 2 groups that could get a 10.0 6 element. You can always find one group to do it. You can stack those groups, but to have 2 groups do it. So you're going to see across the sport, the start value of the 6 element isn't always a 10. If maybe a more experienced or stronger team has 10s across the board and everything else, that 6 element's going to be a little bit harder to achieve.
And we are going to get a 9.95 star value from Iona. And I'm sure Iona has that 10.0 star value in them, but sometimes they will just take that 9.95 to keep it cleaner.
Exactly.
So those 2 steps that you just saw those bases take there, they were allowed to take those steps.
If the top is in motion, the base is allowed to take deliberate steps. But the officials will differentiate between a step that had to happen because it was falling or a deliberate step.
And we talked about that time clock. They finished that with 1.9 seconds left to go. Nothing like cutting it close.
Yep, so if I could guess, it's a 995 start value. If that would have been a tuck off at the end instead of a straight off or a layout, it probably would have been up to 10.0. So I'm sure we're going to see that star value increase in their next meet. Definitely by the time they're playing Baylor. I know they're going to come out here with a 10.06.
Absolutely. Do they travel to Baylor this year? Does Baylor come here?
It's here. I'll be here, actually. I'll be
Nice.
Yeah. So that'll be a fun meet.
That will be. I think I was here for that one last year.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we are going to be closing out this acro event. This is going to be the 7 element. And Morgan State is going to start at a 9.9. It's also something to note that you can't have the same exact athletes in every single heat.
Correct. So if it still holds true, you can have 2 athletes, maybe 3, I don't know. I feel like I've been out of coaching for so long, that can cross-compete, but it has to include the second heat. It used to. I don't know if it does anymore. I think you can go like 1 and 3 now, but it used to have to be 1 and 2 or 2 and 3.
Yes.
But you had 2 different athletes that could do it.
Yes. I think that holds true for the toss event as well.
Yes. Pyramids, there's no longer a requirement. You can, sure, yeah, pyramids you can compete as many times.
Yeah, I know the tosses, it used to be like you could be in the first and second, but you can't be in the first and third.
Correct, and it used to be like the back row.
Yep. Also, as you're watching Morgan State, you can absolutely have 2 different tops switch in and out, which is what they are doing here. You just have to declare the skills that they're doing.
That is always an impressive move. Mainly because I can't even do the splits. Just never was flexible, just strong, just muscles, no bending like that. So people now, which we did not do that when we were in school.
No, we did not.
Now people are holding handstands and straddle holds and pike holds and going into the splits. And I'm just going to tell you, it would not be me. If we were going back to 2012, I would not be on that. Because I couldn't. I might be in the air for it, but there's no way.
Yes. I don't, as someone who stands at 5'1", I don't know if holding somebody in the air was going to be my expertise. But I did mid-base.
I did mid.
I loved
topped
mid.
in mid as well.
Yes. Those were my 2 specialties. I did main base some of like the, now I'm losing my train of thought, like the switch ups.
Yes, yeah. The cheer stunts I did.
Yes.
I came from cheerleading, so I could do both. I
Yep.
could top it and I could base it. It was nice.
Yes. I actually preferred to base those.
Really?
Yeah.
I think I did too.
I liked having more of the control underneath the skill.
Yep. Yeah.
And I got lucky too. They had brought somebody in the year after me that was like a base from cheerleading who was also my height. So it worked out perfect.
Yeah, exactly.
Because normally bases are like not 5'1".
No.
Yes, and she was a beast of an athlete, so I was able to learn with her very well. So not only do these athletes practice multiple times a week, they also do lift. So they will go to a strength and conditioning coach, and they will usually do that 2 to 3 times a week, sometimes more, to build up the muscle and the strength in order to either hold each other up or to be held up by somebody else.
And
because
and for the tumbling component too.
Absolutely.
I would cancel practice before I would ever cancel a strength session because the weight room was so important, especially in the first couple months they were on campus.
It's also really important to help prevent injuries.
Yes.
That, and then you'll see that big team event is going to be the last heat, and it's going to help a lot with endurance, which is something that is vital in that event. Great job by Iona.
Yeah.
That was also a 10.0 start
Yes,
value.
it was.
This completes our acro event. While we're waiting for the bodies.
So while we're waiting for the scores, we are actually going to head into our last event until that 15-minute halftime, and it's going to be the pyramid event. There is going to be 3 different pyramids. There's going to be the inversion heat, the synchronized heat, and then the open heat. So the inversion heat, it must include an inverted position, which is going to be one of those handstand or upside down positions. And then the synchronized heat, so you're similar to what we just saw at acro, you're going to have 2 groups performing the same exact pyramid. And then the open heat, there are no requirements. So that's where you're going to see these team strength and the creativity. So in each of these can include a varying number of athletes. So for the acro heat, you saw Iona had maybe just 3 athletes on the mat, whereas Morgan State had 5 athletes on the mat. So these pyramids, there's going to be a lot more people on the mat, but it could be a pyramid with just 5 people, or you can have that synchronized pyramid where you might see half of the team on the mat.
You could, and as you'll see, I'm not sure if Morgan State will, we'll see, but Iona, definitely last week, they had extra people in the back. And there were somebody with me who had never done an acro meet before. She's a student here at the school, but her brother's a diver, so a lot of things were connecting with her. But she was like, I see they have a lot of people in the back. What's that for? So you can't actually have athletes as spotters in these events that aren't actually a part of that heat, and it's just for safety reasons in case that pyramid goes backwards and she's in a one-to-one handstand on top of people. They have somebody to catch them.
Morgan State 8.65, Iona 9.7.
We're going to get those scores to you in just a second. Morgan State had an 8.65, and then Iona had a 9.7 for that 5-element acro.
Morgan State 4.95, Iona 8.95. In the 7-element heat, heat 3, Morgan State 9.25, Iona 9.6.
For that 6-element acro, Morgan State had a 4.95, and Iona had an 8.95. And for that last acro element, that 7-element, Morgan State had a 9.25, and Iona with a 9.6.
At this point, for Morgan State is 57.4, and for Iona it is 64.75.
Well, those pyramid heats are going to be coming up shortly. And a few things the officials are going to be looking for is the stability of the structure, holds by the top for the 3 seconds, as we mentioned before, a clean, smooth entry and dismount, and those dismounts either end with a catch or a clean landing.
I'm gonna guess with that low score for that 6-element, there must have been something with the SV file or a skill not performed as stated, because it didn't look like a 4.
I agree. Really great job by Morgan State there. You saw a little bit of the instability between that mid base and the top there.
Yeah, they forced that. And you'll see, too, in those handstands, what's really, really important when I was coaching, when we were going to those handstands, is their first, as a top, the first order of business is to shrug the shoulders. Straight arms, shrug the shoulders, get the hips over the shoulders, stack everything, now place the legs, you know. So you can see when they get stuck in that kind of bent position, it's typically that first piece, they never shrug the shoulders from the beginning. Which is gonna sometimes make or break that score.
Absolutely. And I think one thing as we were competing, that was huge for me in those like hand-in-hand skills, was making sure I had a proper grip on the base that I was working with.
Yeah.
If there was any space in between our hands, that actually caused me a lot of instability, which is where you sometimes see that as well.
And then the gloves too. If you wear gloves now, I mean, Iona doesn't wear gloves. You see some girls on Morgan State wearing gloves. It's not a requirement. When I was in school, we were required to wear them, and I wouldn't have pictured doing it without them. I mean, the grip, I don't think I could have done it. I did the handstands, and what helped me was to find, I would look right in the center of my base's chest, and that kept me stacked. That's where my eyes would go, and I wouldn't go anywhere else.
Wow. So Iona's actually, all three of their pyramids are going to start at a 10.0.
Nice. Beautiful handstand at the top.
Now that is what I like to call a picture-perfect handstand.
No movement. Legs perfectly placed. She was so tight up there. The toes were so pointed.
They were.
Like dancer pointed.
And
These are so pointed.
And you saw she went up to that handstand and didn't have any deviation. She did not stop. She did not pause. She went up in one fluid motion, and she stayed there and did not move the entire time.
Yeah. And I think important to know too, as viewers are often wondering why the scores were what they were, what the scores are. So coaches are actually allowed to inquire about up to 5 heats. Okay, so not events, heats. You have 20 different heats. You cannot inquire about team events. So that's the only thing you cannot inquire about. So you can ask about any of these individual heats. So at the very end of the meet, they send that in. They have 5 minutes from the time the team event and the scores are announced to send those in, and then they get them back and they can see their deductions, but they will always get their event violations. So if there was any violations throughout the whole meet, you'll get that even if you don't ask for it. But you will get those small deductions and see which official's taking off for it, which is your top official, your bases, and all of that to kind of regroup and figure out what to do next.
And Morgan State is also going to have 10s across the board for all 3 of their pyramids. And this is going to be our synchronized pyramid. So we're looking for the same exact things as the other pyramids in those stabilities, the structures, the catches, but now this time you're adding that extra component of the synchronization. Great job by Morgan State.
Impressive, yeah.
A little bit of instability with that left group, but this has been a pyramid that has been one of my favorite pyramids since everyone started doing it a few years ago. I think it's so impressive. You have, not only do you have 2 bases on the bottom holding up 2 other people, but you're holding them up in a full extension.
Yep.
That's hard to do on the floor.
And then controlling it back down to shoulders without using your legs.
Yep.
Yeah, very tough. And then, I mean, think about the tops. They're balancing on just one little hand, you know, because if you think co-ed cheerleading, you have men that have huge hands. It feels different. You have more feminine hands in here. So, you know, your tops are learning to balance their weight on the balls of their feet. I mean, the calves are screaming at the top, and you're just having to hold, and then they control it down. It's really, really impressive when they started doing that. We didn't do that when I was in school.
Me neither.
No,
we did those with the base on the floor.
When I was in school, we were still doing the counterbalance pyramid, where we were in the squat, and I was a mid base for this.
The tension holds?
Yes.
The
I was
tension
a mid
pyramids.
base for one of them, and then I was a top for another one. And
Yep.
trying to teach it to athletes now, they don't get it.
No, they
I'm like,
don't.
guys, this was so cool. Can we bring it back? Can we bring it back?
When I was there, I think we really tried to bring it back.
I've tried. I've
Yeah.
tried. No one can do it.
No one.
But we
I
did it
know.
so easily.
You know, and it's
I do
still,
it for fun now. Like, I'm like, just do it, pick someone up.
and it still amazes me, like how one that was someone came up with that, and 2, everybody was able to execute it.
I think it was us at Oregon. I think we came up with it a long time ago
Yeah.
when Fee was our coach. I think we did.
Yeah.
So you'll see a few more people in the back. That's for safety reasons, which is absolutely allowed, and it doesn't affect any cross-competing roles.
You're also going to see this counter in the middle. She also needs to be declared in an SV file, and you get declared as that counter.
Nice.
Really
That was
great
really
job.
good. I feel like they didn't do that last week. I don't think that they did that last week, maybe. I don't remember it. Or I didn't remember it that good and that clean, if
Yes.
that's the case. I remember Baylor was the first team to pop out with that last year, maybe the year before. And
Yes.
we were watching it, and I would slow-mo the video, and I'm like, how did they do it? How did they do it? We couldn't figure it out. I was even coaching at Oregon at the time. We couldn't safely do it. Like, we would launch them over. We tried so hard. And now I think, well, Jackie's figured it out.
Yes.
She slowed it down. She's
She
figured it out.
has.
That looked so clean.
I think this is also a pyramid that they competed last year as well.
Yes.
And I have to say, it never fails to impress me. Never fails to not impress me, excuse me.
Never.
Yes, and so essentially both the pyramids were of similar structure, but they had different entries and different exits. So this is going to be the last event of our pyramid heat. And this is going to be that open pyramid, so there are no specific requirements. You're also going to see Morgan State's going to start on the diagonal here. How each team decides to line up on the mat is up to the coach's discretion. So you can be diagonal, you could be sideways, or you could be facing the judges head on. And there's no penalty to which way you decide to do it.
That top landed that, and she did not move. She
Nope.
just held. And that's what they're looking for, too. They want to make sure that the movement is stopped on the landing. If the movement isn't stopped, they'll kind of backtrack and think, okay, why not? What happened when they dismounted? Maybe they took off early. And they can find different deductions just because of that one thing that they noticed. So it's very important that all the way through it's fluid, it's consistent, and it grabs the floor and it holds.
Absolutely, and since that was a full twisting dismount and they were on that diagonal, her feet needed to land on that diagonal. If they were a little bit to the left, a little bit to the right, that is going to be the deviation of square, and that's where those officials are going to take a deduction.
And sometimes you feel like you can hide it a little bit by going into the diagonal. If you feel
Yes.
like you deviate, you'll go to the diagonal. Now, that's assuming the officials aren't sitting here like I just did and said they turn to the diagonal because they deviate.
Yes.
So an official's going to be looking for that. Where did she land? Paying extra close attention to that. So there's not a whole lot that goes missed.
I think also, as you mentioned, that is up to the coach's discretion,
Yes.
but it's also where they feel their strengths and some of their weaknesses are. Because let's say if you're head on that mat, like the officials might not be able to see a little bit of that instability on that bottom structure.
Right.
And,
Yep.
but then if you're turning to the diagonal, it'll give you a little bit of that leg up if you're not fully completing that dismount.
Even to the side. Even directly to the side.
Yep. We loved facing the side. We always did our duo, the synchronized pyramids facing. It was usually the opposing team.
Yep.
And yes, for people who are unfamiliar with the sport of acrobatics and tumbling, that bottom base, you are seeing that correctly, she is in a bridge. And the mid base is standing on top of her thighs.
We didn't do this when I was in school. An easy pyramid for Iona. Very clean.
What I really liked about it was how fluid it was from the bottom all the way to the top and then back down.
So now we'll go into a 15-minute halftime, and we will come back when 3 minutes are left of halftime with your pyramid scores, and then we head into the second half, starting off with that toss event.
Yes. And this is, not to be biased, this is my favorite part of the competition. The tumbling, the tosses, and the team event.
Yeah. Yes.
Okay, everyone, welcome back. We are going to start the second half of the competition, but first, we're going to give you an update on those pyramid scores. So Morgan State had a 9.3 for that first heat, and Iona with a 9.6. For your synchronized heat, Morgan State had a 7.4, and Iona with a 9.4. And for that open heat, Morgan State had a 9.55, and Iona with a 9.6. So your running totals thus far, Morgan State with an 83.65, and Iona with a 93.35.
So at a 10-point difference going into the second half. If I know anything about Iona, I know that their tosses and their tumbling is where they gain a lot of points. So if history speaks for itself, I feel like they'll probably that spread will get a little bit bigger in the second half, but you never know. Morgan State looks really clean today. They've come really far in the last 2 years, and so I'm excited to see what they put on the mat in the second half.
Absolutely. So our first event out is going to be that toss event. So you are going to have 3 different heats here. So you're going to have that 450 salto heat, that synchronized heat, and that open heat. And we're also going to see the start values vary a little bit more than we have in the first half.
And I do think Iona is performing a new toss today, one that's never been performed before. I think they submitted one and created one.
Awesome.
And I'm pretty sure last meet she told me that, and she didn't have 2 10 tosses last meet. And now she has 2 10 tosses. So
yes.
I'm hoping the one of those tosses is going to be that new one, which is something we will have never seen competed before, not just from Iona, from any NCATA school. So
that's incredible.
I know. I could be hyping everybody up, and I don't know. I haven't seen the SV files, but I hope I get to see it today.
I hope so too. I feel like we got a front seat.
I know.
So Morgan State's going to start at a 9.1 with this toss.
So you can see when we talk about the structures of the tosses and what happens when the top goes up in the air, it also comes down to the bottom, right? That's what you said before. All those spaces have to be really, really close together. So you can see, I don't think we're doing replays, but you can see like our back spot's a little further back behind than if I was coaching, I would prefer, but officials are going to see that proximity to those spaces, and it shows in the height of the toss. If all the bases are not glued together as tight as possible so that all the power goes straight up together with the same amount of force, that's where you're going to see that lack of height. That's where you're going to see maybe the shoulders back, and then it could be a combination of the two, of the tops as well, why a toss might travel backwards. And those are deductions as well. We don't just look for steps in the acros and in the tumbling. We look for steps in those tosses as well. So every step the best bases take outside of the initial jump when they throw is a deduction too.
Yes, and the officials are also looking at that top in the body position there, so they have declared that to be a layout. I would say I saw a little bit of the pike in those hips in that top, so you essentially with the layout want to be as straight as a board.
Yep.
You don't want any deviation of those hips, you don't want your shoulders going back too far to be in that arch, so you want to make sure that you're keeping that hollow body but straight body position in that layout.
Yeah, and that deduction is typically like an improper position or incorrect position type of deduction.
So Iona's going to take the mat with a 9.9 start value. And as you can see, both teams have decided to face these tosses towards their respective teams, so they have the absolute discretion to do that, and there is no penalty for that.
So you are required to face the side if you declare a certain skill in your tosses too. So if you declare like a pike open or a kick, a lot of the front tosses have to face the front because of that. Like if you're doing the front fulls or the front double fulls, because it is a pike open or a tuck open, whatever it is, those tosses do have to face the side, including those Arabian opens into those doubles. But like a double full right there does not have to face the side. There would be a reason that they did that strategically to be different, maybe to hide a deviation. Maybe the set looks better. Every team's a little bit different than going, straight from the front.
That was a very good toss from Iona there. That double twist that you saw in the air was very clean. And there's one thing about double twisting and doing multiple twists in a row is sometimes you tend to see the top's body position, their feet tend to cross or their shoulders tend to be out of line with their hips, which is sometimes where you see that deviation or sometimes a little bit of a mess up of that catch because that top is coming in a little bit wonky.
Yeah.
But I would say they did a really great job there with the form of that double twist.
Yep, and what's interesting with the tosses is a lot of the things you see in those tosses from the tops are also things that are directly translated from their technique on the floor. So if you see a top do a back full with, different deductions, hips out of place, whatever it is, their floor tumbling is probably similar. So it all kind of merges into each other in the training and what the body needs to feel like, what it needs to look like, and the positions and the strength of those positions.
Absolutely. And the connection between the top and her bases is very, very important. Making sure that she is riding their entire initial jump of that toss.
Yep.
It's so important for the height. And
Letting them throw.
Yes.
Yep.
Yes, letting them do exactly what they're supposed to be doing is essentially giving you that height. Because also, if a top takes off early, that does screw up the toss, like the twist as well.
So heat 2 of the tosses here for Morgan State, the only requirement is that it is a synchronized heat. So you have to have 2 groups. You can do any flips within the scoring system.
And they're going to start at a 9.0 here.
Nice clean layouts. Were you an athlete when tosses were regular, like jump in? You're 2 years younger than me, yeah?
Yes.
Okay, so my junior year, maybe my sophomore year, we changed it to the standard.
Yes.
So my freshman year, it was jump, jump, dip, like cheerleading.
Yes.
And then my sophomore year, I want to say, we changed it to the stand, like more acrobatic.
Yep.
Yep.
Yes. No, I think I came in right after they made that change. Yes, they went to the slow and controlled. I remember Quinnipiac used to do like a 5-second dip
I
instead
think we
of
should
4.
have an entire NCATA alumni meet where
That would be fun.
we have teams of people from different teams, though,
Yep.
right? Like all over the country, all ages, and we compete like an inter-squad scrimmage from all the.
Yes.
I'm pitching it. I'm calling Janelle.
Yeah.
Pitching it. Janelle, if you're listening, that's what I want to do.
So Iona is going to take the mat here for their synchronized toss, and they are going to start at a 10.0.
So right there, we're facing the side would be required since they had that kick going into that double full.
And also, the synchronization starts from the jump in. Once that counter starts counting and that top's feet leave the floor, that is when the sync starts either being deducted or either being counted. So from that, just that jump in to that toss is just as important as synchronizing in that big twist.
Yep. And then again, those deductions don't stop until the top's feet are on the ground and the group has cleaned. So just catching it isn't enough. The set out has to be controlled. Everything has to be, done with purpose, with, some integrity behind it. So that judging goes all the way through until they are completely done with that skill.
Absolutely. So even if the top's feet are on the floor, but then she proceeds to take 2 steps from that position, or one of the bases do, but they have not cleaned yet, that will be a deduction. Also, I have never been a coach, but you have. So are tosses one of the hardest skills to teach?
If you don't have the training equipment, yes. With a toss belt. We got a toss belt our second year when I was at LIU. But obviously, as an athlete at Oregon, we had a toss belt. I don't know if at QU you guys had one. Yeah, so, it changes tremendously. You see some of the strongest tosses in teams because they have that training equipment to be able to train those skills safely without knocking your bases out every time, to learn new skills. The body awareness of, our gymnasts being thrown in the air, you're not used to that.
Yes.
So the toss belt, we grew exponentially once we were able to get that into our gym. So, yes, it's hard. Toss belt, easier. So this is our open heat, the last heat of the toss event.
And Morgan State's going to start with a 9.4. Also, another thing to note in these tosses, those front spots are actually given one step.
Deliberate step. One deliberate step, yes.
Yes. Because that front spot does need to move a little bit out of the way to make sure that they don't get hit by that top coming through the basket. So we are about to close out that toss heat with Iona, and they are also going to start at a 10.0. So let's see if you get your wish and they have this new toss.
I know.
Then once we close out this event, we're going to head into the tumbling, which is going to be a little bit of a longer heat than what we've seen in the previous heats. So that's actually going to be 6 different events. And then you're going to have that big team event, which is going to incorporate everything that we've seen from the compulsory all the way until the tumbling event.
So yeah, heat 3 last week for Iona was a 9.9, and now it's a 10. So there's high hopes here. We're gonna see something new today. There's high hopes, and that might be insider information Jackie shared with us. I don't know what the skill is. I honestly forgot.
So what is that process? You need to submit it to
There's a submission
the
period in the
NCATA?
fall that you can submit, and then you say what score you think it should have, and then you have to justify that score, comparing it to other skills with a similar score. And then we have the scoring committee that reviews it and approves it and adds it into the scoring system and sends an email out to everybody. So you see Baylor submitting a lot of things. You've seen some new pyramids this year already from them.
Yes.
It's similar to that.
We did not see that new toss.
I don't know.
We did see a gorgeous kick double.
Yeah. Gorgeous kick double. So she's waiting. That's fine. Maybe at Baylor. Maybe we'll see it at Baylor.
Yes. The height on that toss was spectacular. You can also see, once she came out of that double, she had enough time to straighten out her entire body and not deviate in those hips to come into that basket.
And you see those deductions. So you get lack of extension on the takeoff. You can also get lack of extension upon landing. So if they don't see you fully extend completely, taking off for that toss, and then when you come around before they catch, fully extending, they will take deductions for that as well. So it all kind of folds in together. You almost get double deducted for the same things.
Yes. Same deduction, different parts of the 5-second toss. So after we get those scores, we are going to head into that tumbling heat, which, as I mentioned, is going to be 6 different heats. So you're going to have, it's going to be a combination of synchronized and then solo individual passes. So you're going to have a duo, trio, and a quad. And then those 3 individual passes are going to be an aerial, a 6-element, and an open pass.
So think of one event having 6 different heats, and the maximum start value is at 10. Right there, that's 60 points. That's why the second half holds so much weight. In that's 60 points. To not that everybody's getting a 10, hopefully, or the start value is that, but that just means how many points are in that event. That if you're not a strong tumbling team, it is significantly harder to stay on top of any given meet.
Absolutely, and also this is not a spring floor.
Nope.
So you're
also important.
Yes, so you're going to see these athletes tumbling and doing all these big skills with no springs.
What was the transition from gymnastics to acro and tumbling for you, like for the hard floor and the shoes?
So from where I'm from in Long Island, when you do
gymnastics?
I did gymnastics at FGA.
Okay.
But I also did high school gymnastics, and that is not a spring floor.
Right,
so I
exactly.
and it's actually like one panel less than this, so it's actually
Smaller,
harder.
it's worse.
Yeah.
So you were kind of prepared.
Yeah, so I was prepared for it. I wasn't doing 1.5s in high school gymnastics on the floor. I also wasn't doing front handspring, front tuck step outs, but
Like whips.
yes,
Sounding.
exactly. But I was doing fulls. I had standing tumbling experience, so that made it very easy of a transition for me. So it's pretty much I had the basics. I just had to grow them.
Right.
But I do know some of my colleagues who have come from gymnastics without that background.
Right.
They struggled a little bit. It's tough to go from the springs to the non-spring.
Yeah, absolutely.
7.3. And our meet total, our running totals to this point, Morgan State 107, Iona 120.65.
So we have your running totals for the meet thus far, and it's going to be Morgan State with a 107 and Iona with a 120.65. So Morgan State's going to kick us off for this tumbling heat with the duo. So it's going to be 2 athletes doing a synchronized pass, and their start value is going to be a 9.25.
I like to look at the scores from the meets past to see where they were at this point in their last meet, you know, given that if they're scoring better through each meet, which is exciting.
The tumbling event is the duo pass. Up first with a start value of 9.25 for Morgan State. It's number 5, Iona Anderson, and number 36, Hero Ellis.
That was really clean. The synchronization was there.
Absolutely.
Straight legs.
Clean landings.
They almost look alike too, you know, like their bodies. They're both like
Yes.
they tumble the same, which is always really important when you're finding like, people to tumble together, because if they have totally, like if you have a really tall person and a really short person, it's hard to get synced because the shorter legs doesn't go as far as the longer legs, you know, and the tumbling pace is different. So finding those people that match up perfectly, 2 people that match up perfectly, is a challenge and exciting when you're able to do it.
Absolutely. And that pass you just saw there is going to be a round off whip back, 2 back handsprings to that 1.5 twist. So I like to think of it this way: the higher the difficulty is, the more elements you have where your hands don't touch the mat, the higher your difficulty is, and the higher that start value is going to be.
Ridiculous force.
So Iona's going to kick us off for this duo tumbling pass here. And they are going to start at a 10.0. And one rule to note when it's tumbling, so you're going to have the direction these athletes are going to be tumbling, if they are tumbling straight or if they're tumbling backwards, the designated step that they take at the end needs to be in that same direction. So if they're doing a 1.5 twist and they're landing towards Morgan State, their step has to be forward. If it's not forward and it's backward, that is a deduction. And the cleanliness and control of those steps are also very important.
Nice. And the officials are also looking for, with that step they take, they get that controlled step. Emphasis on controlled step. That you get to take forward or backwards if you're ending in a back skill that does spin. So if the last skill you do does not spin, you have to stick that landing. You don't get a step. But with that declared step, they want to see that the movement is stopped and that it is a controlled step. So if you took that step but your body was being thrown forward, as in you had to take the step in order to stay up, you will get a deduction for that.
Yes, and that pass right there from Iona was beautiful. I think the sync was great. Both passes were very clean. I think they're going to get a great score on that. And it might have only been 2 or 3 or 4 skills, but as I mentioned before, they did 3 of those skills where their hands did not touch the mat. They connected them in a row, which is why that difficulty and that start value is at that 10.0. So we're going to head into this trio heat with Morgan State, and they're going to start at an 8.75. So not only is it hard enough to sync 2 athletes doing the same exact pass, but now you're adding that 3rd athlete in there.
And not only just sinking them, finding something difficult enough that 3 people can do, because right after this we have to have 4 people do something, and it has to be something different.
Yep.
So to keep those high start values, you've got to have at least 9, right? 9 people who can do difficult skills cleanly. Because while they might be able to have the skill, it's not clean enough to put in a tumbling event. It's usually reserved somewhere for a team event, a little more fast-paced, because they want minimal deductions.
Absolutely. And we were talking a lot about the synchronization, but the officials are also looking to make sure that there's no bent knees, no leg separation, making sure the skills are also being fully completed. So you're going to see a lot of that with the twisting skills. You want to make sure they're getting full, like that full twist or that full 1.5 twist around.
Really clean, really good height, but you see in those steps forward. Taking a few steps forward and kind of hopping is going to let the officials know they were not able to control that landing, and deductions will follow suit accordingly.
Yes, and depending on how big that step is, it's up to the official's discretion to take either 1, 2, or 3, or even more tenths off on that step.
Yep.
And people that are unfamiliar also with the officiating, if you take a few hops, each hop is a deduction.
Yep.
Each step or foot movement, or if their heel comes up, top of their feet come up, that is also a deduction.
And then also if you leave the mat, if a foot comes off the mat, I believe it's a different deduction if you land first and then one foot goes off the mat, or if you land completely off the mat for that first touchdown. So,
yes, completely off the mat.
A lot of layers.
Yes, a lot of layers. Landing completely off that mat is definitely a bigger deduction than taking that one or two steps off of the mat. Also does not feel good for that athlete. Landing on the basketball court. So Iona's going to kick us off with this trio heat, and they are going to start at a 9.55. Okay, we are back, and Iona's going to kick us off with this trio pass with a 9.55 start.
Nice, a few steps off the mat, but overall pretty clean.
A little bit of that synchronization issue with that front athlete there.
And you could see, I think this trio was struggling a little bit in the warm-up, so I think they're happy that they all pulled through and we're landing on the feet.
Yes. And that's the most important part, is landing on your feet.
Yes, yes.
because if you do fall in one of those tumbling passes, that is going to be the biggest deduction of them all.
And it holds different weight in the events than it does in the team event as well, those falls.
So the quad pass, this is going to be our last synchronization pass from both of the teams. And Morgan State's going to start at an 8.35. So you can see as they're adding athletes to the synchronization pass, the start values are starting to go a little bit lower. Because as we mentioned earlier, it's very hard to find that top tier difficulty while you're adding more athletes. I think the biggest thing also is some of these people might have these passes, but you want to make sure that it's safe. That it's safe for all of these athletes to compete those passes.
Right, and sometimes it's not worth it to put out those harder skills just to get the start value if you're going to get a ton of deductions, or it's not going to be a clean, safe routine.
Another thing to note with this tumbling event is that these athletes can compete in one synchronized pass and one individual pass, but they cannot compete in multiple synchronized and multiple individual passes. So you can only compete in in two heats. So one synced and then one solo.
Yeah. And in the solo passes, one of those heats is required to have a front tumbling element.
Really great, clean way to close out those synchronized tumbling passes for Morgan State. And you can also see how that ending skill was a full twist. And essentially, that power was going towards Iona, so they all took those steps back that way. If someone were to land a little bit short and step forward, that would be a deduction.
Yep.
So Iona's quad pass is going to start at an 8.75. And if I think I'm correct here, that's going to be 1.5s.
I think so.
When we were competing, those were the 9-1 start values.
Do you remember what 10s were? I think you could, a 10 pass then is like a 9-6 now.
Yep.
Or less.
Yes.
A handspring front tuck through to full and a half was a 10.
Yep.
That's no longer a 10.
Nope. And just a single, whip to a full, that was in, the 9-8 range as well. And now that...
Now it's going to be a triple whip to a full and a half.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah, which is exciting, the strength of the sport and the evolution of the sport, that the start values did change because our athletes are good and they're getting stronger and we're able to compete more skills.
Absolutely.
And it all helps with the growth of our sport.
Yes, and that recruiting element too. Yeah. So all of these coaches everywhere need to go out and recruit these athletes. And you kind of have that competition between gymnastics or cheerleading or stunt. But for me, I chose to come to acrobatics and tumbling. It was new, it was exciting, it was fresh, and I had teammates that did it and loved it. It was also an opportunity for me to learn a completely new sport, essentially.
Yeah. I just didn't want to wear a skirt and a bow. I was a competitive cheerleader, and when the dance came, I was like, please just let me tumble. I love to compete. I didn't want to smile.
Yep.
And I found out acrobatics and tumbling, and I was like, yes, done.
Yep.
You only care about my skills. I don't have to wear a skirt anymore.
Yep.
No glitter.
Perfect. No bows. Great.
No bows, no glitter. And when I was coaching, I would not let my girls wear bows.
Yep.
I would not let them wear bows or ribbons. They would beg. I would barter with them. I'd be like, all right, if we score this meet, next meet you can wear ribbons.
We were never allowed to wear them either at Quinnipiac.
Yeah, and I don't think I see Quinnipiac do it.
They do not.
Yeah.
That is something Coach Powers instilled with us. She wants clean, nice, tight hair. She doesn't want it flying around in your face. She wants you to look
athletic.
As clean and as athletic as you're going to compete on that mat.
Yeah.
So it looks like we have a little bit of a holdup with the officials.
It always flies through in the first half, and then when tumbling comes, it takes a little bit longer.
And this is only the start of the season for both of these teams. They have so many more competitions to go there, so there's going to be so much time for everybody to tune in and really learn about the sport, learn about these teams. And then at the end of the season, they have that big national championship. So Iona's going to compete their final synchronized tumbling heat now.
Nice, just a little bit of synchronization, but overall, clean landings, nice high sets.
So now that our synchronized portion of this tumbling event is over, we're going to move on to those individual passes. So you're going to have the aerial pass up first, the 6 element, and the open. So that aerial pass, this is the one that needs to have the front element, or can it be in this or the open?
I think it just has to be in one of them.
Yes.
Yeah, one of the 3. The aerial pass just means they're doing 2 salto skills. So 2 skills without hands have to be included in the pass. That could be a whip through to a, very minimal, a whip through to a tuck, whip through a layout. It's usually a full and a half through to a something, or even the front handspring front tuck. That front tuck is going to be that satisfy that requirement into that ending skill. And then the second heat is the 6 element. So they had just to do 6 elements, including the hand element. So no more than 6, and no less either. It has to be exactly 6. Yeah.
Yep.
And then the final heat is just the open pass. So you can kind of do whatever you want. Making sure we have a front element in one of those 3.
And you'll typically see some crossover here with some of the athletes that were in the duo, the tree, or the quad. They will, most of the time, also compete a solo pass. Because that's normally where you see your strongest tumblers. So that pass for Morgan State was a 9.75 star.
It's a full and a half to full and a half. I believe that was a 10 when I was in school. Maybe
It
my
was.
freshman and sophomore year it was. And we had a few people who could do it, not many. So now you have a lot more of those. And that athlete particularly, I think she was on the team last year. Her tumbling is so much stronger from year to year, and that's what's really funny about our sport too. You might have a freshman come in and they're still acclimating to the hard floor, they're still building that strength, and so you maybe don't see them excel with as much power as they end up having in their sophomore year, junior year, all the way through their 4 years in school. Just the growth you see as an athlete in all of these skills. I know personally I was not in the tumbling event my freshman, sophomore year. Junior and senior year is when I finally got in, so I just had to really, first of all, I came from competitive cheerleading. I used springs, so it was a really big transition for me. I had the spring floor set, the bent knees, whatever, but standing fulls were my vibe, okay? But it was running tumbling that I struggled with technique-wise until it took me about 3 years to be able to get on the mat for that.
Standing fulls were not my vibe. I came from a gymnastics background, so standing fulls were not taught. You were not taught how to do. You were always taught how to have the straightest legs.
I would run into gymnasts that could not standing tuck.
Yeah.
Like they were like off a beam maybe. I was like, you're doing like a beam rock. Like, just use your legs.
So that was one of those athletes. I could do a 1.5 on this floor, no problem. But a standing tuck, it took me a while to find that, like, the proper set there.
Right.
Because sometimes when you set on an actual floor, like on that spring floor, you have a little bit of that give. It gives you a little bit of that extra height.
Yes.
But here you don't have that.
Yeah.
It's all body.
And what's important too in the training, like when I was coaching, the first month that we're on campus, I mean, we're building it back to the basics because we're having to retrain their shapes on the hard floor.
Yep.
The biggest thing is your feet can't be behind you when you take off because you have no spring to send you up as it would be in the spring floor. So getting our athletes to understand that and to kind of change the habits they've had their whole lives is a transition for those first couple of months.
Absolutely. And I think it's also different between standing and running. Running is something you need to find a new set. You need to get your body used to that.
Nice. That was very clean. That was a double whip into a 4.5. So those bounding skills are going to have those higher start values than if she were to only do one of those whips and adding the hand elements. So having two aerial skills together is always helpful for those start values.
Absolutely. And with those two bounding skills, the officials are going to make sure that those are not fluctuating in height. You want them to be at the same height. If you have one that's a lot higher than the other, that is going to be a deduction as well. They want to make sure you're not losing that momentum.
And and the continuity. So they look at that too. The speed is one whip faster than the other. Did the pass speed up halfway through? They look at that. They need every skill to have the same rhythm all the way through.
And that athlete gives me the impression she can add one more whip to that pass.
Absolutely. But then she would have more than 6 elements.
Yes. Then she would need to be in either the first or the last pass.
Yeah.
And that pass that athlete just competed, it was a 10.0 starting value.
Was that the first heat? Was that the aerial heat?
It was.
Oh, yeah, then she couldn't do that.
Yeah,
I
it was
was
a
like, wait a second.
9.75.
I'm jumping ahead.
Yes. I do know that the 2 whips to 1.5 used to be a 10.0 start value. And then once all these athletes came in with this really incredible tumbling, they brought it down.
Yeah. So this is where we see 6 elements.
Yes, and this is going to be a 9.75 start for Morgan State. Great job by Morgan State. The continuity flowed through. I think I saw a little bit of a leg separation in that last twisting element, but other than that, great job.
She came off the mat like, I've done that before. You know, she's like, whatever, not a thing.
Easy.
The quiet confidence they have, but it's funny. I wonder if inside she's like, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
But then they pretend like, whatever.
I could do another one right now.
Right. Run it back.
Yeah. We also talked a lot about landing off the mat, but you're going to see some of these athletes in these individual passes, they are actually starting off the mat. So they are allowed to do that.
You just have to land on it. But in team event, you cannot start or land off the mat. So you'll see some athletes do these same passes, but they have to shrink it down into the team event from corner to corner, which is really, really hard to do.
Yes. And with that running, tumbling portion in the team event, you'll also see some of these skills dialed down a little bit because they need to fit it on the mat, and also they want to make sure with everything else that's going on in that routine that they have the stamina to compete those passes.
Yep.
So this is going to be the 6 element pass for Iona, and they are starting at a 10.0.
And Ty, I think this is finally her last year competing.
Yes. She has been such a valuable addition to this Iona team.
Yes. A little bit of off the mat. I feel like Iona has a lot of power today. They're not knowing what to do with it.
Yes. Yes, a little bit off the mat. And then I would say, as we mentioned before, a little bit of that lack of continuity coming out of that second bounding skill, that Arabian.
Yeah, they want to see when you do that whip Arabian, that the Arabian propels you into the rest of the pass and you're not landing on the back leg. It looked a little bit like she landed on the back leg, which typically starts from the set into that Arabian, maybe rushing that set, not being able to really rise those hips before that rotation.
So we are heading into our final heat of the tumbling event, which is going to be the open pass. So this allows for each team's creativity. There are no specific requirements for it. Morgan State's going to start at a 9.7, and then Iona is going to close this out with a 10.0 start value. And then after this tumbling heat, we are going to head into the big team event, which incorporates everything from the acro to the tosses to the pyramids to tumbling. You're going to see some standing and running tumbling. You're going to see You're going to see some synchronized. You're going to see some not synchronized.
Yeah.
And this is why Shelby had mentioned. This is why the second half holds so much weight. This team event is out of 110 possible points.
Yep.
So you're pretty much combining everything we just saw into 2 minutes and 45 seconds.
Wasn't expecting to see another whip full.
Me neither.
So she did round off, 2 whips, 1 back handspring, whip, punch into a full.
What a great way to close out the tumbling heat for Morgan State.
I know. And team event too coming up. I mean, it's my favorite thing to watch. As a coach, it was my most hated thing to choreograph. You know, and when I had Nicolette on the staff, if I didn't have her, I would have lost my marbles. She was so good at just figuring it out.
Yes. Because essentially you need to place all 24 athletes on the mat and not blocking each other.
And you have different requirements. So you have to do 21 running tumbling passes. 12 of those passes have to be synchronized. They will not count as synchronized if they don't have a minimum start value. And that kind of changes from year to year. I'm not sure what it is now. Same for standing tumbling. You have to have 21 standing tumbling passes, and 12 of them have to be synchronized. Within that 21, so not 12 additional. You have to have 30 acro elements, and you have to have one section where you have 4 groups doing at least 3 elements.
Yes.
Or is it the opposite? Yeah, 4 groups doing at least 3 elements. I work with youth acro too, and it's the opposite. Synchronized, and if one of those groups comes down, you not only get a fall, you get missed skills, you also get the lack of sync requirement. You have to have 4 tosses. 2 have to be synchronized, or 3?
5 tosses.
5 tosses. 3 have to be synchronized.
Yep.
Yes. 5 tosses, 3 synchronized. 4 pyramids, 2 synchronized.
Yes.
So fit all that in 2 minutes and 45 seconds and find 24 people to do it.
Sounds easy, no?
That was easy. That looked so easy.
Yes.
Why did she could do that in her sleep.
She absolutely could. She can even add another element to that.
I hope we see it in team event. Right?
I hope so
Another
too.
full.
Yeah. And the one thing I really, really loved about that pass, is I mentioned this earlier, is that all of those elements between the whip, the 2 whips, and the 1.5 all stayed at the same height.
Yep.
Even the 1.5 at the end got higher than those other 2 skills, which is also very important.
Yes.
Not only that, I would consider that a controlled step at the end. It didn't look like she was fighting.
No, and I think she did that last week, and it looked the same. I mean, I don't know what she's like in practice, but she looks like a very consistent athlete in her power and her tumbling, and just that she seems like collected, you know, like a stoicness about her.
I think that's also very important to find those collected and those calm athletes during these competition times, because everybody competes differently. And some people get a little bit more nerves before they go out there, but having that calm, collected person to even just stand near or to talk with, that helps the atmosphere of the team so much.
Yes.
And also, as you mentioned, like, coming from gymnastics, any of these people that come from that, it's kind of an individual sport.
Yes.
It's more of an individual sport than it is a team sport. And this could not be more of an example of a team sport.
Absolutely.
So you need to find how to compete with other people and not just by yourself.
You have to work as a unit. You have to rely on other people to do their jobs, which a lot of gymnasts like that because they got to go out on the mat and win and lose and suffer as a group. You know, instead of just how in your head you are as a gymnast. You're out there alone and you're essentially competing against your teammates.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And the biggest thing about this team event is what you don't want is something to go wrong, but you have all those other people on the mat to pick
fight
you up,
for it.
to
Yes.
fight for it, to
Yep.
pick you up. And even sometimes if a skill doesn't go perfectly, you have that teammate there.
In the trio heat, which is heat number 2, Morgan State 7.5, Iona 7.65. And in the quad heat, which is heat number 3, Morgan State 6.6, Iona 8.25.
We'll get those scores to in just a second.
Which is heat number 4, Morgan State 7.575, Iona 9.525. In the 6th element heat, which is heat number 5, Morgan State 9.45, Iona 9.525. And in the open heat, which is heat number 6, Morgan State 8.975, Iona 9.775. Our event total, Morgan State 48.85, Iona 53.875. Our meet totals to this point, Morgan State 155.850, Iona 174.625.
So the running total so far, Morgan State's got a 155.85 and Iona's got a 174.625. So we're going to head into that team event, and Morgan State's going to start with a 99.55. This is what I like to call organized chaos. So for the next 2 minutes and 45 seconds, we're going to let you guys take this all in, and then we can debrief a little bit afterwards. Okay, so great job by Morgan State there.
I didn't see any acro falls. Did you? Pyramid
I did
falls,
not.
no. Tosses, no. A few tumbling. I think I saw a miss skill, maybe one fall over here in this corner. So just a few tumbling mistakes. I would say some synchronization, some bent legs. In the team event, I mean, think about how many people are on the mat tumbling. All those deductions are tripled because of how many people you have, how many sync deductions you have, how many bent knees you have. Because those sync requirements, if you dare declare something as synced in the team event, it has to be synced, or you will get a deduction for that, on top of the already execution deductions.
Absolutely, and if something doesn't sync or you don't do that synced pass, let's say when an athlete misses that pass, then you're going to lose that deduction also on the amount of synced passes that you need to have. Also, the officials are set up a little bit differently for this event. So you're going to have, since there are the 3 officials, each official gets 3 panels on the mat that they look at, which then also coincides with the creativity of these coaches to put everything in a specific place of the mat, to be strategic about it. Because essentially, if you want to put all of your acro elements in 3 panels, you only have 1 official looking at all of those acro elements.
Yes.
And the officials do get a layout.
They do. So in the warm-up, when the full team takes them out during that warm-up, those 50 minutes, the first 3 minutes that the whole team is on the main mat, they're required to walk through their team event. They can do whatever skills they want, but they're required to do that so the officials can look at the layout they have in hand from what you submitted the day before, and then they can look at the layout of your team event, and they can actually tell each official where to look. So, and they also now, that 3-panel thing, I don't think really has to matter, because they can say, okay, they put all their acros in those 3 panels. You watch the tops, I'll watch the bases. And they circle that and they make notes of that. I'm pretty sure they do that now. So we could be strategic about it, and sometimes they may not, but they go through that and they decide who's watching what so that they don't miss things.
Yes.
But what you do want to do is tumbling. You can have the tumbling go across. That way that official is having to watch that pass all the way across the floor instead of just watching it go straight back, which makes it a little more difficult with other things happening in the background.
Yes, I don't really see too many big tumbling passes going from front to back or back to front.
No.
They used to do that, I think, during like my freshman and my sophomore year. They had those in the routine. But now it's mainly just going across the mat, going through the diagonals.
Yes.
And you can also not perform a tumbling pass while there's an acro skill going on,
you
or a
cannot.
pyramid skill. You cannot do any type of tumbling while that is going on.
And you can't do different skills at the same time either. So you can't do like a toss and a pyramid. And you can't do an acro and a toss. The only things you can do is you can do acro, tosses, pyramid during dance. You cannot tumble during dance. You have to, I remember one year I had them pause in the dance. We did some like standing talks and then we resumed dancing.
Yes.
So you can't tumble during dance. There's a bunch of different things, and as coaches, like I just naturally know it. But teaching someone, especially a new coach coming into our sport, if you want an athlete, really hard.
Yes, and that's why it takes a village to create this team routine.
And shout out to all the schools and the teams that have one coach on their staff, and they just are figuring it out. They rely heavily on their athletes. I've been one of those coaches with no one on my staff. I relied heavily on my athletes to help me, and they did. And now a lot of them are coaching.
Yes.
So at least we did something.
Yes.
We did something there.
That is the beauty of the sport. I mean, you have, not only yourself, who was an athlete and then became a coach, a lot of the coaches that you do see today were also athletes from the sport.
Yes, yes. Jackie was also an alumni from Oregon, and I was as well. She was 4 years older than me, so she graduated the year I went in, so I was never on the team with her. So, you see a lot of the coaches around the country that were athletes. And so it's just an opportunity for the athletes, not only coming into college to try a new sport, to get a scholarship, but also leaving. They can go into grad assistant positions. I was a head coach building a program when I was 22. We're building new programs all the time, and now we just got that NCAA vote. So you're going to see a lot more programs pop up, a lot more opportunities for our athletes to go into these coaching positions. And it's really exciting to be able to build that from the ground up, and it's such a bigger vision than just what you're seeing on the mat here.
Absolutely. And if anybody who's watching is interested in becoming an athlete of the sport or interested in becoming a coach, please visit that website, check us out, reach out to other coaches, reach out to athletes, and really make that change, because I can tell you right now, it's a real testament to all the athletes that do come back and stay in the sport.
Absolutely.
So Iona is going to take the mat for their team routine in just a few minutes, and they're going to start at a 104.66. And this team routine is to a set of music. The coaches get to come up with the music themselves, unless they have the discretion, they can ask their athletes, but there are, from what I understand, no rules on what songs you can pick. You can just combine all of them and obviously make sure that there's no, bad content in them.
Profanity,
Yes.
We also typically don't have like the sound effects you'll have in cheerleading competitions. So like the bells and the dings, it's typically just the music. But I like to pay someone to make it.
Yes. If you have to make the whole routine, I don't think you need to do the music as well.
All right, that was our team event from Iona. Pretty clean, impressive overall. They're such a strong team. There was a few tumbling deductions. I think I saw one fall in the beginning.
Yes.
I don't think I saw any acro falls, maybe a little bobble.
Yes, I did see an assist over here.
Okay, yes.
So that is something as well when you declare an element and it has that certain start value. If you have so the spotter there normally is there and they see that it's going to fall or it's not going right and they put their hands on that skill or on the athlete, that is then called an assist, which is then a deduction.
Yes. Yeah, it's called an illegal assist, I believe. And I don't know if anyone saw this. Ty Upton, she takes her brace off And I don't think it's always last year. She takes it off in the middle of the team event, does whatever she needs to do without it, puts it back on before she tumbles again. It's so impressive because how stressed I would be, especially if it's not buckling or if it's not velcroing, and she does it seamlessly. And then one of the straps was even on completely. She goes into a toss, beautiful toss, comes out, finishes putting it on, has about 25 seconds before she has to throw a tumbling pass, that whip Arabian through the full and a half to finish off that tumbling section. Really impressive. We're actually able to do that now. You can take off your braces and put them back on, but they have to stay. I believe they have to stay on the mat. I think the equipment has to stay on the mat. So it did stay on the mat. I don't know for sure if that's required. I think it is. Nobody can hold it for you. So
I do know when we were competing, some of our back spots used to wear masks to protect their noses. So I do remember they would have to start with it on the mat, but then they can throw it off when they were completely done with it.
Yes.
But there cannot be, as you mentioned, like there is no assist. Like you can like throw it off the mat, and I think the coach can go and grab it. But I don't think they can't hand it to you.
Yep. I don't think Iona was as happy with that team event this week as they were last week, but luckily both teams were very early in the season. So you know, if you peak right now, you have nothing else to do. We know their start values are going to be better. You know everybody's going to get cleaner. They're going to play other teams, and everything changes so much, especially from your first meet to your fifth meet of the season. After playing other teams and watching yourself, film review, seeing it live right there it changes so much for the athletes and the coaches as well.
Absolutely. I know a lot of people watching it in slow motion as well, where you can kind of nitpick those things that either maybe the officials didn't see, or maybe you don't that you didn't feel, or that you have no idea that you're doing.
Yep.
That is something that's very important in the sport of gymnastics and the sport of cheerleading also, because you're doing so many flips, so many twists, so many elements in such a short amount of time.
Yep.
You can't fully grasp kind of where something went wrong until you really go back and you take a look at it and kind of where the root of the problem was.
Yep. Yeah, and then make changes too. Find things that aren't as clean as you thought they would be. You know, all of those things. It's really helpful. I'm excited for this season. I feel like we have a lot of really talented teams in the NCATA now, and so many teams. I mean, when I was in school, we had 6 schools. When I went to college, we had 6 universities, and we were traveling all around the country to compete against them. We were coming to West Virginia to compete.
Yes.
QU was one of those founding teams, and then now we have over like 58, 60 something. I think we have more than that. Lots of Division 2s, Division 3s, a lot of Division 1s, whereas we used to only have like 3 Division 1 schools. So the sport is growing so quickly, so many opportunities at every level to compete.
Absolutely, and as you mentioned, we did get that vote, so this is that first season after that, so this is a big one.
Yes.
For all these athletes, all the coaches, you know, all the staff there at the NCATA as well.
Yeah, and this is also their senior night.
Yes,
so
it is.
They'll do their senior stuff. I don't know if it's before scores are announced or after. I thought it was before, but I don't know. They change it every year.
They do. Quinnipiac used to do them before, but now they do them after. It's cute how all the staff are wearing those, all the seniors on their shirt.
I know. I was looking at that. It's so cute.
My senior day feels like it was ages ago.
I know. Because it was.
Yes, it was.
So we can talk a little bit about postseason and what that looks like for our sport. So we do have a national championship, and the top 8 teams from the regular season compete for that team title. So we do a preseason coaches poll, which puts you in that top 15 based on your stats from last year and then what people can expect from the coaches poll. That's in the beginning of the season, so those already came out. Halfway through the season, we start kind of narrowing down that to those top 8 teams, and then before, I want to say 2 weeks before nationals, we get the full top 8 who will be competing. And Iona is actually ranked number 4 in the coaches poll right now.
Awesome.
Yeah, so I think it's Baylor, Oregon, QU, Iona.
Yes.
I think that's it right
And I
now.
think this is the highest that they've been up there.
Last year, they were ranked lower, I think like maybe 10, something like that, but then they were actually 8 going into nationals, so they went to nationals last year. But I think their first meet was against, was it Baylor? I think it was 1 and 8. Yeah, I think it was. So, but now they're ranked a little bit higher, and I presume they're going to be ranked a little bit higher. So the first meet's not going to be Baylor. Like, there's a chance we see Iona in the finals.
Absolutely.
Which would be super, super cool. And then they have event finals, so you have all the top 8 teams qualified, but then you have some kind of outliers for those teams that didn't qualify.
Final scores. And we now have the team event scores and the final scores for today's meet. The team event for Morgan State, they scored 71.75. And the team event for Iona, they posted 82.76. Morgan State's final score this afternoon combined is 227.6. And for Iona, their final score 257.385.
So we have our team event scores and our final scores for the day. So Morgan State on their team event got a 71.75, and Iona got an 82.76 on their team event. And your final scores for today's competition, Morgan State with a 227.6 and Iona with a 257.38.
Yeah, very fun meet, very competitive meet. You know, all these teams are getting, I mean, Iona's only in their 3rd year, right? Their 3rd year. I think Morgan State's 1 year under that. I'm not totally sure on that. But how much they've grown as programs in just these last couple of years. Iona, even from year 1, you know, they got Jackie at the helm, so she's incredible. And just her coaching and all of the things, and so it's really fun to see from year to year these teams, and I'm really, really excited for what we saw today and for what's to come for the rest of the season.
Absolutely, and as we mentioned, this is just the beginning of the season, so there's so much more growth that's going to happen throughout the rest of the season before we get to that national championship, so it's going to be a fun one.
Absolutely.
So that's going to conclude today's competition with Iona being your winner here at the Heinz Center. Thank you guys for tuning in today, and we're excited to see you guys for the rest of the season.
Yeah, we'll chat soon.
Yes.